Close your eyes and picture this. It's 50 AD and you're standing in the courtyard of a grand Roman villa. The sun beats down, but the air feels heavy, thick with the scent of dust and fear. Before you, a girl, barely 14, her hands tied with rough rope, stands trembling as a wealthy man circles her. He lifts her chin, checks her teeth like she's a horse, and measures her hips with a cold, calculating stare. Then he pulls out a leather ledger and scratches down her worth. 12,000 sesterces over 20 years, 8 healthy children. This isn't a livestock market. This is human breeding, a chilling science the Romans perfected with horrifying precision. What you're about to hear will shatter everything you thought you knew about the Roman Empire. Behind their marble temples and poetic words lies a truth so dark it's almost unthinkable. Are you ready to face the sinister legacy of Rome's human breeding programs? Let's step into the shadows. When you think of the Roman Empire, what comes to mind? Towering aqueducts stretching across golden fields, philosophers debating in grand forums, or maybe gladiators clashing in the roar of the Colosseum. The Romans gave us law, literature, and engineering marvels that still shape our world. But there's another side to their story, one so grim that history books often gloss over it. Beneath the empire's glittering surface was a machine of unimaginable cruelty, a system that treated human beings like livestock, breeding them for profit with the same care they gave to cattle or crops. This wasn't a secret side project. It was a cornerstone of Rome's economy, woven into the fabric of their society. Men like Marcus Cassius, one of Rome's richest landowners, didn't build their fortunes solely on conquest or trade. Their true wealth came from something far darker, breeding enslaved people. In 1987, archaeologists unearthed a chilling discovery at Cassius's villa near Pompeii. They found leather-bound ledgers perfectly preserved, filled with meticulous records, not of grain or oxen, but of human lives. These ledgers detailed the value of enslaved women and their children, calculated with brutal precision. A healthy 16-year-old girl, the records noted, cost about 2,000 sesterces to buy. But if she could bear 8 to 10 children, each worth 1,500 sesterces at market, that was a profit of 12,000 to 15,000 sesterces over 2 decades. It was pure mathematics, a business model that reduced human lives to numbers on a page. Can you imagine it? Your entire existence, your pain, your pregnancies, your children, boiled down to a profit margin. What kind of society could look at a young girl and see only her breeding potential? The ledgers didn't just track profits. They recorded everything: menstrual cycles, pregnancy outcomes, even the mortality rates of children born into slavery. If a woman failed to conceive within her first year, she was sold off at a discount labeled unproductive. One entry describes purchasing a Greek woman because her previous owner swore she produced exceptional offspring with superior quality. Her life, her children, her body, all reduced to a transaction. Imagine being that woman, standing in a strange land, knowing your worth was measured only by the children you could bear. How would it feel to know your pain was just a line in someone's ledger? The Romans didn't just breed humans, they turned it into a science, as precise as their aqueducts or military campaigns. In 37 BCE, a scholar named Marcus Terentius Varro wrote a book called De Re Rustica, a guide to farming. Tucked between chapters on raising sheep and planting crops was a section that makes your stomach turn, detailed instructions for breeding slaves. Varro treated human reproduction like agriculture, advising villa owners to buy girls between 12 and 16 for their optimal reproductive potential. He calculated that a first pregnancy at 15 would maximize the number of productive years, while minimizing the risk of maternal death, a total loss of investment, as he put it. These weren't just cold theories. Villa owners followed Varro's advice to the letter. Their records show how they tracked every detail of a woman's reproductive life. When did she last bleed? How many pregnancies had she carried? How many children survived? If a woman didn't conceive within a year, she was deemed defective and sold off for less. Some records even boast about buying women from specific regions, like Greece or Thrace, because they were known for producing high-quality children, as if humans were breeds of cattle. But the Romans went further. Like a modern dog breeder selecting for traits, they paired slaves based on physical characteristics. Tall, muscular men from Gaul were matched with women from regions known for skilled artisans, hopping to produce laborers who were both strong and talented. Beautiful women were paired with intelligent men to create slaves for elite households, destined to serve as tutors or entertainers. The goal wasn't just to produce more slaves. It was to engineer the perfect slave, tailored to the market's demands. Archaeological evidence paints a vivid picture of this system. Excavations at villas like Quintus Hortensius's near Tusculum reveal specialized quarters for pregnant women, with larger rooms for mothers raising multiple children. These spaces weren't built for comfort. They were designed to maximize efficiency, keeping women healthy enough to produce but nothing more. Forensic analysis of skeletal remains from slave cemeteries tells an even grimmer story. Female skeletons show signs of repeated pregnancies starting as young as 13 or 14. Many have pelvic deformities from childbirth complications that would be medical emergencies today, but were just acceptable losses in Rome's breeding machine. The men used for breeding, called stallions in the records, were treated differently. They were fed better, housed separately, and rewarded with privileges to ensure they produced quality offspring. But their lives were no less controlled. If their children were deemed weak or sickly, they were pulled from the breeding program and sent to dangerous work, mines or quarries, where death was almost certain. Can you imagine the weight of knowing your child's survival determined your own fate? The physical toll of Rome's breeding programs was horrific, but the psychological destruction was even more devastating. When a young woman arrived at a villa, she didn't just face physical exploitation. She underwent a process called domestication, designed to break her spirit entirely. Picture a girl torn from her home, locked in a small, dark cell. For 6 months to a year, she's cut off from everyone except an older slave, trained to mold her into submission. Food is barely enough to survive, doled out as a reward for obedience or withheld as punishment for defiance. Her identity was systematically erased. Her name was taken, replaced with a Roman one. Her language, her culture, her gods, all forbidden. Speaking anything but Latin brought swift punishment, often brutal beatings. If she arrived with a child, that child was ripped away immediately, sold to another owner or sent to a nursery to become a verna, a slave born in captivity, raised to know nothing but servitude. Imagine the agony of a mother watching her baby taken, knowing she'd never see them again, never even know their fate. This wasn't just about control. It was about breaking the human spirit so completely that resistance became unthinkable. Roman records describe a successful slave as one who showed complete obedience, no emotional attachment to her children, and even helped train new arrivals. These women were called premium breeding stock, their humanity stripped away until they were tools of profit. The system was so effective that it produced generations of verni, slaves who never knew freedom, who saw their servitude as natural. Varro recommended that 80% of a villa's slaves be verni, as they were less likely to rebel, their minds molded from birth to accept their chains. But the Romans didn't stop at individuals. They broke entire families. Children were taken from their mothers at age 5 or 6, sent to nurseries or training programs to prepare them for specific roles, laborers, artisans, or even future breeders. This separation wasn't just practical. It was psychological warfare. By destroying family bonds, the Romans ensured that slaves had no loyalty except to their masters. Can you fathom the despair of a child, torn from their mother, raised to believe their only purpose was to serve? The horror of Rome's breeding programs didn't stay hidden behind villa walls. It was on display for all to see. Slave auctions in Rome were public spectacles, not unlike livestock markets. Young women destined for breeding were paraded before crowds, subjected to humiliating examinations. Buyers inspected their teeth, checked their breasts for signs of development, and even conducted invasive internal exams to assess their reproductive capacity. Auctioneers recited detailed histories. When did she last menstruate? How many pregnancies had she carried? Were her children healthy? A woman who'd already borne strong children commanded premium prices, marketed as proven stock. Men used for breeding faced similar scrutiny. Known as stallions, they were judged on their strength, their fertility, and the quality of their offspring. Buyers studied records of their children's market value, treating them like prized bulls. Often, children born to these pairings were sold alongside their parents, displayed as living proof of their breeding potential. These sales were designed to maximize profit while inflicting maximum trauma, families torn apart in front of cheering crowds. Roman medicine played a chilling role in this system. Physicians like Spartacus of Ephesus developed a specialty called slave gynecology, writing texts that read like veterinary manuals. They described brutal procedures to test fertility, track menstrual cycles, and ensure healthy offspring. Caesarean sections, rare for free women, were performed on dying slave mothers, not to save them but to extract valuable bobbies. Maternal health was irrelevant, only the product mattered. Imagine being a woman in that world, knowing your life was worth less than the child you carried. But not every soul was broken. In 73 BCE, a gladiator named Spartacus ignited a rebellion that shook the Roman Empire to its core. His revolt wasn't just about winning battles. It was a direct assault on the system that sustained Rome's wealth, the breeding programs. Spartacus and his followers stormed villas across southern Italy, burning ledgers, demolishing nurseries, and freeing women from birthing chambers. They didn't just free slaves. They dismantled the infrastructure of human breeding, ensuring it couldn't continue. Archaeological evidence from these villas shows the rebels' precision. Nurseries were reduced to rubble, medical tools smashed, and records turned to ash. Spartacus understood that these programs were the backbone of Rome's economy. If he could destroy them, the empire's slave system would collapse within a generation. His forces integrated freed women into their ranks, giving them a chance to reclaim their humanity, to fight for a future where their children wouldn't be born in chains. Rome's response was revealing. Marcus Licinius Crassus, tasked with crushing the revolt, prioritized recapturing breeding facilities over farms or mines. To Rome, these programs were more vital than gold. When Spartacus's rebellion was finally defeated, the punishment was savage. Thousands were crucified along the Appian Way, their bodies left to rot as a warning. Among them were countless women who dared to defy the breeding system, their courage immortalized in their sacrifice. Can you imagine the strength it took to stand against such a machine, knowing the cost would be your life? The Roman Empire fell centuries ago, but its breeding programs left a legacy that haunts us still. The techniques they perfected, controlling reproduction, breaking spirits, erasing identities, didn't vanish with Rome. They echoed through history, shaping the plantation systems of the Americas, the colonial policies of Europe, and even modern forms of human trafficking. Spanish and Portuguese colonizers in the 16th century studied Roman texts like Varro, using them as blueprints for managing enslaved populations. The psychological tactics, isolating individuals, destroying families, conditioning obedience, are still used by traffickers today. What does this tell us about civilization? The Romans built aqueducts and wrote poetry, but they also treated humans as commodities. Their brilliance coexisted with unimaginable cruelty, and that's the lesson we must carry forward. Progress isn't just about grand monuments or intellectual achievements. It's about recognizing the dignity of every human being, no matter how powerless they seem. If we ignore this, are we doomed to repeat the horrors of the past? Take a moment to think about those enslaved women and children, their voices silenced for centuries. Their stories, uncovered through archaeology and dusty records, demand to be heard. They remind us that history's darkest chapters aren't just relics, they're warnings. Will we listen, Or will we let these voices fade into silence again? If this journey into the shadows of Rome's breeding programs left you stunned, don't stop here. Subscribe to join us as we uncover more hidden stories from history's darkest corners. Want to dive deeper into the past's forgotten truths? Click the video on your screen right now for another shocking tale. These voices deserve to be heard, and we're just getting started. Let's keep peeling back the layers together.